And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We have Crusty Old Guy once again. Just as a reminder, folks, if you're going to a game this season, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The bad food will still be there, the bad beer will still be there, and the bathrooms will still be there. If you're looking for good food before a hockey game this year, highly recommend Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco over on Ogden, just a couple of blocks away from the United Center. It's great. The food's great. The people are great. And the best part is it won't break the bank either.
Yes, it's quite delicious.
All right. We have some NHL things because it's trade deadline week. Biggest thing is right now I'm very sad. Adds on to my loathing of the Vegas Golden Knights right now. But Jack Hughes is hurt, guys. And I do not like that whatsoever. First, Vegas takes out Miro Heiskanen. Now they take out Jack Hughes. Not a fan of it. We really don't know about the injury or what's happening. I imagine that they will get some answer prior to the trade deadline because that is a considerable amount of money for New Jersey to go shopping with at the trade deadline if he is, in fact, on long-term injured reserve. I'm hoping for their roster that he is not. Also, just because I don't like to see any of the Hughes brothers hurt.
I hear you on that. I don't like to see the Hughes brothers hurt either. Nobody likes to see that.
We also have Brad Marchand as a week to week for the Boston Bruins right now.
Really?
I really don't have feelings on this because he's a rat.
Well, he was. There was a lot of talk of him maybe going somewhere.
I think that killed it.
Not necessarily. I mean, if he's out for a week, he's a player somebody could use. That's for sure.
I mean, but we don't know. As of right now, according to Puckpedia, Laurent Brassard is still listed as day-to-day for our injured reserve. So we really don't know what injuries mean.
Well, we don't, but the rest of the league does. So I digress.
Anyway, we've also got Trent Frederick traded to the Edmonton Oilers in a three-way deal between Edmonton, Boston, and New Jersey. New Jersey is just playing the role of the Chicago Blackhawks with just retaining money.
Huh.
Or no, they do have a prospect. They did get a prospect, but I mean, the big piece was retaining money. And then last one, we have Jake Evans signing a 4-year, $11.4 million contract with the Montreal Canadiens. Some say this ups Ryan Donato's ticket. I really don't know because I can throw out all the analytics that I want. I'm really bad at deciphering trade value.
Well, Evans was one of the power forwards ahead of him. Maybe. That thins the herd, so to speak. So there's just not a lot of them out there. So he's got to be close to the top of the class.
Yeah, sure. I'll trust you. And as we've mentioned a couple of times already, this is trade deadline week. Trade deadline brings up some not great memories for Hockey Princess. But it's this week, Friday. It's usually at like 2 or 3. I don't know the exact timing, but it's Friday. So there'll be some chaos on Thursday and some chaos on Friday, probably.
Yes, I don't foresee much chaos. NHL Network and everybody does a whole day on it. I just don't know how many people are left to move. So I don't think it'll be near as big. Has your listening audience ever heard your trade deadline story? I think we did tell it, didn't we, or no?
Yeah, but we can tell it again because there was another podcast that reminded me of my memory. Guys, many, many moons ago, pre-Patrick Kane, or no, not pre-Patrick Kane because they played for 1 year. Pre-dynasty, if you will. It was the end of February. It was trade deadline. Crusty old guy comes to my mom's house. I think that my grandma is dead based on how serious Crusty is. He unfortunately breaks the news to me that my favorite hockey player of all time, and the reason that I am a hockey nut, Tomo Rutu, has been traded just minutes before the trade deadline. Taken away from me. Dale Talon gave my first real heartbreak and my trust issues with men and with this sport. I cried for days. I wore black for a week. But I would also like to shout out the Carolina Hurricanes staff because Hockey Princess proceeded to send her jersey to the Carolina Hurricanes, and Tomo Rutu signed it, and they sent it back. Thank you for dealing with a delusional 12-year-old.
Yes. Yes, that was a very scary one. I had to drive all the way home from the city. Didn't know quite how to tell you, and you blew crying snots all over my shirt. It happens. As I said, I don't expect this trade deadline to be as crazy. There's talk of Mikko Rantanen going somewhere again. After that, it's just pieces. There's not a lot of teams that are out of it. So I think a lot of teams are waiting around to see if they're in the hunt. So there won't be a ton of movement.
Yeah. Got anything else in the NHL world?
Well, are we talking about our NHL trade now? Or are we going to talk about that later?
We can talk about it now.
It's your call, your show. I'm just a boy out in the garage.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Blackhawk media and fan base got what they wanted this past weekend. Everything that they've been hoping and praying and word vomiting on social media for since this man came to Chicago from Columbus. Seth Jones has been traded to the Florida Panthers along with a 4th-round pick. I am not remembering off the top of my head if it's 2025 or 2026. It's a 4th-rounder regardless for Spencer Knight and a 2026 first-round pick. Now, I don't want to excite everyone about this first-round pick because it is a Florida Panthers first-round pick, which means it's a late first-round pick. And not to say that that doesn't matter, but I just don't want anyone thinking that with that pick we get an additional, top 10. It will be very much at the bottom.
Yes. There's been a lot of go round and round and round about all of this. Yes, most of Blackhawk Nation has hated the man. I have put away my Seth Jones Defender cape. It has now been put away right next to my Duncan Keith t-shirt, playoff t-shirt. That'll be put away forever. Kudos to KD. He got a good amount for him when I didn't think that was possible. They only retained $2.5 million. So it all depends. Yes, the first round pick is a Panther pick, so you figure 25th or above. But as KD loves to say, this is more assets. So we've got assets coming out of our asses. Not to be confused with lard ass. He had to go. Crusty old guy has his own opinion on all of this. I believe the Blackhawks started leaking stuff about potential suitors for Seth. And when it wasn't squashed, when Seth had his little bad luck play right after his injury when he came back for the Winter Classic and everything, and nobody in management defended him. I think that was the last straw for Seth, and he made it public that we needed to go. And then he made it public again after their beautiful showing in Utah that he needed to go. And it put Katie in a little bit of a bind.
Good.
Yeah, because it would have been difficult to have Seth there all year. So he gets a goaltender that who knows could be the future, could not be. We'll talk about that. We can talk about that part later, but he's gone. Crusty old guy is very curious who gets thrown to the Wolves next.
Connor Murphy.
Could be. I'm thinking it's the one we're harping on. I'm thinking Nick Foligno's next.
I don't know if they ever will. And yeah, for everyone that's been throwing out stats of undefeated in this Seth Jones-less era, we're also undefeated without our captain. So maybe that should tell us something. That this skeleton that's wearing a C, undeservingly wearing a C on the front of his jersey, maybe it's a better thing if he wasn't on this roster.
Whoa.
When you're spoiled your entire life with Johnny, nobody
I'm not
else
going to
is
sit here and switch right over to now going after I said who's going to be fit. I'm not going to do that kind of eating. We can talk a little bit when we get to the Blackhawks, I guess, of how we feel that for the rest of the year.
Hey, there's no switching to it. Some of us have been on that bandwagon since October.
Oh, I know that, but I don't want to go right in after I said fed to the Lions. So
I won't. I'll continue hating on him. That being said, with this trade, I am a firm believer that I think this is two players that have the opportunity to get a fresh start on different teams and in significantly different environments. I wish them both well. I wish Seth well down in Florida. I wish Spencer Knight well up here. For those who are not, we won't delve too much into this, but Spencer Knight has definitely had a rough beginning in his professional career. So I think this is an opportunity for both guys to have a fresh start with different teams and in different scenarios. And I wish both of them well with their new situations.
yeah, me too. As most know, I'm a Seth fan. I don't know where he got this other manipulating hate about being a locker room cancer and this or that. Seth is probably one of the most professional players in the league. He's been around professional sports since the kid was like 5. He just doesn't say much. He's one of those guys. He's not going to say much. He goes out there, does his job. He made comments also when he went to Florida about he didn't sign up for this. Of course he didn't sign up for it. And
But also, I was confused because a lot of people were like, "What do you mean? We were in the beginning of the rebuild." I don't think anyone at that point in time was considering that we were in a rebuild. You still had Johnny, you still had Patty, you had Brandon Hagel on the up and up, you had Alex DeBrincat, you had Dylan Strome. We were not in the burn it to the ground.
right. I will let people state that, well, it wasn't the best choice. They were declining. I'll give them that.
Right.
But it wasn't this scorched earth stuff that he signed up for. Even if Kane and Taves lead, you figure you've got a very good young forward, a very good centerman, and an unbelievable goal scoring forward still on your team. He had no idea that was all going to be thrown away. So, and again, it's a two-way street. He was looked at as an asset and thought about how we would get rid of him since Kyle Davidson took the job. So it's not like this is all on Seth. When management doesn't want you, management doesn't want you. It's a difficult place to be in. So,
Yeah.
again, I wish both of them the best.
Yeah. So that's our big trade.
That's our big trade. So, and I don't think there'll be a bigger one out there. So,
Jumping to prospects. Guys, I went to go see other prospects. I was literally seeing prospects while the Seth Jones trade was happening. I was driving back from Kalamazoo and then just got a text from Crusty being like, Seth Jones is in Florida. But I went to Western Michigan. Not that we have a prospect at Western Michigan, but North Dakota was in town, which means you're Sasha Boisvert. And like when I went to Minnesota, we'll have an article dropping Friday. So tomorrow, when this comes out, kind of deep diving a little bit more from what I've seen with Sasha and kind of what I expect for the rest of the year and moving forward. Crusty had to listen to me harp yesterday during the game because I just wanted to tell everybody all the details about Sasha. So for those who don't know, or maybe this is your first time listening to this episode, Sasha Boisvert is currently the second line centerman for University of North Dakota. He's behind Cameron Berg, who will be graduating. But he's playing second line minutes right now. All overall, impressed with the kid's game. Doesn't have the best speed, but I think because of his size, he doesn't necessarily need to be the fastest guy on the ice because he can just cover a lot. He can cover the same amount of ground in less strides because he's bigger than, say, somebody NASCAR size. Biggest thing that was impressive to me, and we kind of already knew this with Sasha's background, is he does not care about the risk of being physical. He will hit somebody into the boards or get hit and almost be completely unaffected. Getting physical and getting dirty in the corners and in the boards does not bother him. I really like to see that because sometimes with like kids and juniors or the like first year in college, you see that maybe like the jump from USHL to college, there's a little, everybody's a little bit bigger, a little bit nastier. Not too nasty because it's college hockey, but definitely bigger and nastier than USHL. And the kid does not care. He will hit and he will get hit and still play his game, which I was very excited to see. And kind of the biggest thing with me with Sasha that I saw is I liked everything with his game. I just want more of it. I want more of everything. He's on the right path. And I think, getting more of it will come with having a sophomore year next year with University of North Dakota.
Okay. That's, of course he's going to like the physical stuff. He's an ex-boxer. Dad was a boxer. So, I'm sure he's into pain a little bit.
Biggest thing, though, is I have seen 3 prospects within a week and not a Blackhawk development guy in sight. Crusty, I think they should just hire me at this point.
Oh, I'm sure they were there. They were just hiding. Oh, wait. Our top development guy is coaching. One of our other development people is playing hockey. That doesn't leave a lot of development people left now, does it?
I'm just saying, I haven't seen a redhead in sight in the past week.
Oh, he doesn't do that stuff.
He was there for NASCAR.
Huh. Well, he's not doing that stuff yet then.
Yeah.
So.
I saw plenty of other scouts with the notebooks. Because primarily most of University of North Dakota is drafted. Western Michigan's got a couple of guys. Their starting goaltender made a bunch of noise backing up Augustine at World Juniors. He's currently a Kings prospect. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were people for watching Western Michigan prospects as well as North Dakota, but not a Blackhawk in sight. But I was there.
That's what matters.
Getting into our prospect report this week, we've got 1 goal from Dominic James out of University of Minnesota Duluth. You've got 2 wins in net for Adam Guyon this weekend for University of Minnesota Duluth. And Saturday's game ended up going to double overtime as well. You got 2 goals for Sasha Boisvert this weekend. The second goal was the game that I saw Saturday where he managed to tie it up 30 seconds to go left in the game. Beautiful. For Oliver Moore, you've got 3 assists and 1 goal for University of Minnesota. Aiden Thompson for Denver University, you have 3 assists. 1 assist for John Mustard and Connor Kelly out of Providence College. 1 goal and 1 assist for AJ Spellacy for the Windsor Spitfires. 3 goals and 3 assists for Martin Misiak out of the Erie Otters. 1 goal and 1 assist for Alex Frond out of Sudbury Wolves. And then very slow weekend. But he did get a shout out at the Blackhawk game on Monday. You have 3 goals and 1 assist for the Lardass.
Yes, when things are going really bad, you start to hype your prospects. So they actually did that. I'm sure they're watching this show too and have caught all of our lard ass hype.
Yeah.
And decided to hype them at the game.
And then so I believe it's next weekend, or no, the following weekend. I think it's St. Patrick's Day weekend, quarterfinals for playoff hockey starts. University of Minnesota is in it. They play Notre Dame. And unfortunately for Crusty and I, they do not play at Compton. They are at Mariucci.
Yes.
Crusty, because I don't understand this, and it's set up too much like college football. So we have different conferences that these guys are in.
Yes, we do.
How does playoffs work?
Well, I need to go to the Google then.
Because I know you've got like the Big Ten with Minnesota and Michigan, the Michigans. But then you also have NCHC, which is like your North Dakota, your Arizona State University, your Western Michigan. And then you've got like the Boston schools. Like, how does this work?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out now, and I won't be able to. You really went quickly on me. But what I'm figuring is, you're killing me. Basically, we're going to have to give them, we gave them, everybody, the version last year also. Basically, I believe there is 6 to 8 conferences. Your conference tourney winner gets an automatic bid. Everything else is seeded through what you would call the frozen tournament development. Yes.
So, like, Minnesota got this, like, big trophy last weekend with big written on it. Does that mean that they won?
I don't believe that does their seeding. I believe it's the tourney. What it means, before everything became in this world about playoffs and deciding that we don't care if these kids go to class or not, they had to go to class and everything, and you couldn't have these long drawn out playoffs. So basically you would have the Big Ten, and it wasn't even the Big Ten back then, different hockey conferences, and whoever won that would go.
Okay.
That is not the case. They won the Big Ten regular season. So you get a trophy for that because, we're still in the age that everybody gets a trophy.
But that doesn't mean anything for playoffs.
It doesn't mean anything for playoffs. You're the winner of the Big Ten, meaning you're going to the dance. Where you're seeding in will depend again how you do in your Big Ten tournament.
I have another one.
Go.
So, like, Western Michigan got a trophy this past weekend, and it says their conference on it. Is that their automatic bid?
I don't believe so. See, I am not prepared for these questions. This wasn't in our pregame discussion,
No.
if we ever had a pregame discussion. I don't know if they play in a conference that has an automatic bid or not. Most of these conferences all have to go through attorney too now. It gives the school a little extra money for a couple of extra games. I don't believe anybody has an automatic bid yet.
Okay, that's all.
Okay?
Do you have anything else on our prospects?
Of course not.
Okay.
They're prospects.
Getting into Rockford, we had 2 games this past weekend, both against Tucson Roadrunners because there's still hockey in Arizona. Woohoo! Saturday's game, I'm not even going to talk about it because it was ass. They lost, and they lost bad. Would you imagine that? It's almost like there's no discipline behind the bench. Sunday's Rockford game, a little bit different. Drew Cremessa was in net. You also, this weekend is the first weekend that Gavin Hayes is back from injury. He's typically slotted between the first and the second line right now for the past couple of games. Rockford must be listening to when we were joking last week about how we don't need to see Zach Sanford, because it was Saturday night was the Zach Sanford show. That man put on a great performance. But it was a pretty even 60 minutes. Rockford ended up winning, which is good because a win is a win. Should be interesting.
Yes.
All right. Should we get into
Blackhawk hockey? I love Blackhawk hockey. Love it.
we have do you want to talk about the Vegas game?
We can talk about the Vegas game. I have 20 minutes left until I need to leave, so I'm going to try to wrap this up halfway quickly. Or 25 minutes. They'll get us to an hour. Or trust me, we'll be okay. Don't give me that look of death. I've got this.
Okay, go.
Vegas game.
Yep.
It was really fun. Vegas had giveaways. They gave away stuff. So I got a chance. The mascot bobblehead. Very cool. I don't know when Chance became a mascot. I thought it was just the night guy. But he didn't come choking me at this game. The Blackhawks wet the bed. Basically, we're down 5-1. Crawled back a little bit. Vegas let their foot off the gas. It's garbage time. So, the stuff that was done, I don't really look at all that much. You had some people scoring some goals. It didn't matter. It gave them good momentum going in to the Anaheim game. I mean, that's basically the only way you can say it. We can bring up our little box score from it, if I can, really quickly. Well, we had, after the garbage time, Colton Dot goal, Ethan DeMaster, first goal ever in the NHL. Mickey Mouse with a goal, and for Philip Khrushchev, before he got his wrist all messed up by a slash, scored a goal. So, I believe we had Mrazek in net for a little while. Mrazek did not make it past the first period, and Bloom came out for the second and third and played well. So they managed to lose 2 games that I went to go see them, but they did score 6 goals. So my woman has stated that's where your level's at for your last 2 games of the year. You need to bring home 6 goals. And then the Anaheim game. Did you watch the Anaheim game?
I did not. I was doing this really fun thing called watching Sasha Boisvert play hockey.
Okay, well, the Anaheim game was nice. Anaheim, in all honesty, had been playing really well. They were like 8-2 in their last 10. Wyatt Kaiser with a goal because he's now back in because Seth Jones is gone. And
why do we have Wyatt Kaiser instead of Nolan Allen?
I cannot answer that. I'm a little butthurt at Phil and the Pope. How is that question not asked? That what were you doing with him for a month? He's up for a month and he's not playing. I don't understand that. So I don't know. I talked about this a little bit today too, when somebody asked me if EDM had gone past like core on the depth chart. And I thought about it for a second. And number one, they're different pieces.
Yeah,
And
they're
number
very
two,
different types of defensemen.
I have no idea how to tell what the heck the Blackhawks depth chart looks like. I don't think they do. So what was going on with Nolan Allen, I don't know. But EDM with his first goal, and EDM played a very good game.
And he's been playing very good games.
Yes, he's been playing very good. The one, we got two guys on a tear. And that's Tavo and Donato, and they're both playing together. Go figure. Tavo's been playing lights out. Lucas Reichel with a breakaway goal, which, again, I know Lucas Reichel can score breakaway goals. That is, that's in his little bit of a repertoire. So, it was a good win for a team that had been through an awful lot with all the Seth stuff and just the terrible start after the Four Nations tourney. I mean, besides the comeback in Vegas, that was 3.5 really bad games. So, good to them. Again, Bloom with another fine outing. So, as we had talked about before, occasionally this team's going to win. They're going to need great goaltending to win any game. So,
segueing into the Los Angeles game, you had Spencer Knight's first game in net, Brody out, Foligno out. Someone's been listening to me. Thank goodness I finally got what I wanted. I don't have to see those two faces on the ice. Slow start to the game. Very questionable of how the game was going to go in the first 10 minutes of the first period. You had a Martinez goal right off the bat, which with a great screening by Doc, who also had a fantastic game. He is doing everything that is asked of him. Very impressed. I'm biased. I'm impressed with him in general. We love Colton. Second goal with Mickey Mouse, another kid that's on a little bit of a tear at the moment, doing pretty, or at least maybe not tear, but has pretty consistent game. Third goal, you have an EDM who has been playing fantastic. He is an absolute unit. I believe, I don't know exactly, or no, it was Fiala. I was talking with Crusty of when Fiala kept trying to want at EDM and it just wasn't happening. And you can hit him all you want. That kid will not move. He is a unit.
Yeah, he's very strong on his skates. Again, the Reichel line making some noise. DeMastro was basically looking for Craig Smith on the cross ice pass, hits off an LA defenseman's skate and goes right in the net. That's why you put the puck on net. But EDM, I thought, had a phenomenal game last night. So, and then we get a double-A goal. And again, he's already back to the second line to tell you the disarray that is the Blackhawks. He went from Rockford to playing wing on the top line. That tells you exactly how dysfunctional we are. And then, of course, Ryan Donato needs one more goal to up his trade value.
Yeah. Very good week. Very good week. Crusty, are you up for some little bit of speculation?
I would before we get to speculation,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the other guy I wanted to talk about from last night.
Yeah.
I called him out about 3 weeks ago when you were wondering why Colton Dock went down, and I stated he needs to play physical, and you said, well, he's one of the most physical players on the team, and I said, yes, he is, but they need more. His job is to play exactly like he played last night. He was everywhere. Any opportunity to hit, he hit. He had two incredible reverse hits. Double A doesn't score his easy goal without his beautiful work in the net. That's what I want from Colton Dock. It was beautiful to watch. The kids are all gelling nicely, so it's a beautiful thing. At least for now. LA is also the worst team on the road, so I know better than to go crazy. Just wanted to mention that, and then we did have number 30 in net, and he played really, really well. That's why we're wearing the 30 Belfort cap tonight.
Mm. Mm.
But Spencer Knight was as advertised by everyone who said this is our goaltender of the future, which we can get into another time after the season.
Yeah.
But he played darn good last night. And yes,
Absolutely.
why don't you start speculation when I go grab my notebook?
Oh my goodness. He's so not prepared, guys. Well, most of the Chicago media has been talking in terms of, oh, I thought you had to go back into the house to get your notebook.
No.
Most of Chicago media has been speculating of the next head coach because no one really foresees Anders Sorensen being taken seriously or continuing his role with the Chicago Blackhawks come next year. So there's been a lot of speculations in terms of head coaches, in terms of really any coach, because Rockford also needs a coach, and we need these assistant coaches, and we need Derek King out of a job. Because maybe at that point, then the power play won't look so horrendous. So we've got some speculation. We're going to go over some people that have been consistently rumored, maybe some new faces. I'd say the top two that have at least heard tied to the head coaching position in terms of rumor mill has to be Mike Sullivan and David Carl. Mike Sullivan is currently the Pittsburgh Penguins head coach. He was with the Chicago Blackhawks at the tail end of the dynasty in a different position and then left. But I would imagine we kind of talked about this earlier in the season that Pittsburgh was definitely one of the teams that was looking to maybe fire their head coach along with Andrew Burnett in Nashville and a couple of other pieces. I mean, he's seasoned. He's been in the league for a while. He was a part of a winning NHL team for a while. He knows how to coach. I really was afraid of this pick, but then was educated by our Washington Capitals insider of begrudgingly how good Mike Sullivan could be. I have no problem with it, really. If Mike Sullivan is the new head coach, he seems to be veteran, but not the quote unquote old school head coach that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, because I think there's a very thin line between being old school and mentally abusive on players. Your Tortorella, your Babcock, who Head Nation likes to say are old school, and maybe they're just actual assholes. But he seems to be veteran without being the old school type of coach. If that's the case, I don't hate it.
Yeah, Sullivan I've got no problem with. Again, we'll know more about those kind of coaches at the end of the year when we see who all gets let go.
Right.
And if you're looking for a retread right out the get-go. So, and Carl's the Denver coach?
Yeah.
Yes, which has been rumored all over the place.
And like we've said before, this is not a knock to David Carl. I really don't see him leaving Denver right now because, one, I think you have a decent amount of control within your program that is only on the up and up. So why would you want to leave that right now? And also, if you have your family there, if you're building a life out there, I mean, he even said in an interview a couple of months ago, coaches go into the NHL to be fired. So if you're looking for stability in your life, if that is something that is of high priority, I wouldn't recommend leaving Denver.
Right, but if you're looking to coach the best in the world,
yeah,
you come to the NHL. And then there is one coach out there that has 3 Stanley Cups. He's available.
I don't want him back.
I'm going to feed that to Meathead Nation. Joe Quenneville is available. He's a very good coach.
Don't want him.
Oh, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
No, thank you.
Along those same lines, maybe an assistant coach from Detroit, who the Blackhawks have already once over. Maybe a Trent Yanni.
Ooh.
Who would bring some stability. The only other guys that I've got is Lambert, who's one of Sullivan's assistants. Woodcroft, who I've heard nothing but great things about Jay Woodcroft.
Can you remind our listeners who Woodcroft is employed by?
Is he employed by anybody new?
Or his last team?
His last team was Edmonton. Okay. He got them to the Western Conference Finals his first year. They got bounced in the second round his second year. And then Edmonton started really bad his third year, and they canned him. There was a lot of rumors saying that the leadership core wanted him gone. I've heard every source that I read or listen to said that was not the case. That was made by upper management saying, we got to right this ship right away. So, which obviously worked for them. He's a big X and O's guy. So I would not have a problem with that. My other two is you've got a David Quinn out there who I just don't like his structure. I just don't think it works in the end. It's just a little too loosey-goosey.
Who's David Quinn?
David Quinn used to coach either BU or Boston College. Then he went to the Rangers, and then he did 1 year with the Sharks when the Sharks were really bad. And the only other guy is Todd Nelson, who I believe you've been on. And,
yes, I've been on a Todd Nelson kick. Shout out to our Washington Capitals insider. And thank you for segueing for me to talk about how much I love Todd Nelson. Guys, it makes sense. So Todd Nelson is currently the head coach for the Hershey Bears, which is the Washington Capitals AHL affiliate. I would say the Hershey Bears run very differently than other AHL teams. They are connected to the Washington Capitals, but they don't necessarily prioritize like Washington Capitals picks and Washington Capitals prospects. They have their own AHL veterans that are at the top of their game in the AHL league right now that they prioritize. They prioritize winning games for Hershey and not necessarily the development of these kids to send them up to Washington, because Hershey has been at the top of their game for the past couple of years. These kids are going to be developed regardless. This only seems to benefit the Washington Capitals right now. You have Faravari, Sonny Milano, Miroshnichenko, who have kind of done the back and forth, Jacob Vrana, and are only doing the back and forth, one, because Washington's so stacked right now, but because they've been taken care of and they've been in this Hershey way of doing things that it's an easy transition for them. Um, they've won the past couple of years. They did win last year. No, he hasn't been up at the NHL level, but I don't, or maybe has he? I could be
He
wrong.
was in Edmonton for a year back at like 14, 15.
Okay, so he's done the NHL show a little bit.
Right.
My thing is I don't see him progressing with the Hershey Washington dynamic. Maybe there's an assistant coach opening up, a couple of years down the line or something, but you're not on the path to replace Spencer Carberry. I'm a big fan of Spencer Carberry. Most of Washington is. That locker room very much seems to respond well to him. They have a good thing going. So you've kind of reached the highest that you can within this Washington Hershey dynamic. Like I said, maybe if there's an assistant position opening up in Washington, maybe he goes for it. But I think even then, you kind of know that you're not going to reach the peak with this team because unless Washington absolutely tanks it, there's no way that they get rid of Spencer Carberry. Um, I'm a big fan. He's been around for a while. He's kind of a weird dude. Um, he holds his team very accountable, which I appreciate. There's been countless times in media where he's very blunt, especially if they've had a bad game. He doesn't necessarily like dance around and sugarcoat, oh, it's all fine. Um, to be fair, neither does Spencer Carberry. I think that's just how they work within that dynamic. But yeah, I want Todd Nelson.
Yeah, I would not have a problem with that. We'll get into this more during the off season. You'll hear a lot of people talking about Rantna, Marner. I am sorry, but the biggest decision that KD will have is how he's going to put together a coaching staff in Chicago and a coaching staff in Rockford. That's it. At the end of the day, Stan Bowman's legacy got stinky because of one coaching decision. You can say what you want to about any of the other moves, but that was the killer. He brought in some kooky coach with all of these veterans and thought it was going to work, and he died on that hill, and that was a hill that he died on. So they have other dynamics where they have to start deciding if Nelson's the guy. If we're running Nelson's system, the Nelson system has to go down to Rockford. Everything starts to be uniformed. It's very important. I love his accountability. I think it would be a little bit of a reach. As long as I don't, as far as getting him as a head coach, just with his lack of NHL experience, it better not be a Granato, and it better not be this fool that we have right now. That's all I can say. Is I don't care if the Blackhawks go on a tear at the end of the year. That guy can't come back. So that's the main thing for me. Nelson, I think, is a dark horse. There is also Gerard Gallant out there, but he comes with a lot of baggage from what I've heard, and he's an ego, and I don't think Katie's going to deal with that.
No.
So.
Also, we talked about this after recording last week, but I just like to throw it out there because it's my show.
It is.
If you're wiping clear with all of these coaching things and coaching changes, and just to appease the hockey princess, may I suggest snagging Florida's third string assistant coach, Tomo Rutu, and giving him a bigger role, telling him to come home, giving him a bigger role, either as another assistant coach in Chicago or maybe something with a bit more substance down in Rockford. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. We could either end it with that, or I've got to go pick somebody up. So you might be able to switch me to my phone if you want to continue the show,
No,
or shall we wrap?
we'll end on Tomorutu.
I would love to see. I don't think Tomo's ready, but I'd still love to see him here, just because it's Tomo Rutu. Um, Again, anybody who they get, it's the biggest decision this organization is going to make in the rebuild. That's the facts.
Yeah.
So I have the utmost confidence in KD will get the right guy, because if he's shown in the last 3 coaches that he's, oh God, never mind.
And on that note, just make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you are going to a game this season, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The bad food will still be there, the bathrooms will still be there, and the beer will still be there. If you're looking for good food before a game, highly recommend Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco over on Ogden, just a couple of blocks away from the United Center. They are open after games too.
And you can come by and see Crusty there.
Yeah, and you can come by and see Crusty. That is all, and we will talk to you guys next week.